trust people have in them, the more like goodwill people have toward the speaker up till a point. So that's why I waited until we started pounding the tables. That's how I know it's the right time. It's a little bit loud in here, but that's okay. It's not too loud. They say the problem with a lot of speeches is that you can't hear what the speaker is saying. The problem with a lot of other speeches is that you can. So hopefully that this one is one of the first type of speeches. We're going to have to deal with some traffic here. But anyway, thank you all for coming out to hear my birthday speech. I got the idea to give a speech from Aaron Hadlow. I'm following Aaron's noble example tonight. Aaron's birthday was in January, and so this last January, Aaron delivered his second annual birthday speech, and it was excellent. So that's where I got the idea. I want this speech to be like the prologue to my hopefully lifelong series of birthday speeches. I like the idea of giving speeches that I can look back on after a period of time, and that was totally Aaron's idea, so thank you. I'll try not to be long-winded or didactic in my speech tonight, and I always try to avoid giving advice in speeches too. I am mindful of a lesson from the life of Socrates. Socrates was a wise, long-winded Greek philosopher who walked around giving people advice, and they poisoned him. So that's a lesson from the history of public speaking that I will take into account today because people have been buying me drinks. So I'm just going to play it safe and get through this speech. My theme tonight is reflection. I just want to take a few moments to talk about the role of reflection in our lives and in creating our identities. I think it seems like it's the appropriate topic for a contemplative sort of project like this. I tell myself that I want to be the type of person who takes time to stop, smell the roses, reflect on things, and think about life, but I find that I rarely do that. I believe that taking time to stop and reflect is an important part of a life well lived. It was Socrates, again, who said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And I agree with that, but again, I just find that I rarely take the time to stop and think about things the way that I wish I would. Perhaps some of you can relate to that. If I had my way, I would go out camping every single weekend and sleep outside and look up at the stars at night. But one thing leads to another, and it seems like I just never get out. Now, it turns out that that's actually one of the best parts of taking the time to prepare a speech. One of the best parts of participating in the tradition of birthday speeches is that it forces me to sit down and reflect. So I guess in that way, giving a birthday speech is like camping for the soul. Anyway, in the spirit of reflection, I would like to just take a few moments to share a story with you, if I may. It's actually more like a metaphor or a parable. It's called the Metaphor of the Parlor. That's the title of the speech, Parlor. It was coined by American rhetorician Kenneth Burke. And so a parlor is like a large room used for gathering or entertaining, exactly like this room. So as I illustrate the following scene, imagine that this is actually going on somewhere over there. Here, listen to what Burke says. Imagine you enter a parlor. You come late, and when you arrive, people are already there, and they are engaged in a heated discussion. Too heated for them to stop and tell you what it's about. In fact, the discussion had already started long before any of them got there, so that none of them could stop and tell you how the conversation even got started. You listen for a little while, until you decide that you've caught the tenor of the argument, and then, Burke says, you put in your oar. You dip your own oar into the conversation, and you move the conversation forward. Someone answers you, you answer them. Someone argues against you, and someone comes to your defense, and so on. You talk, but eventually, Burke says, the hour grows late, and you must depart. And you do depart. As you do, you know that the discussion that started long before you arrived is still vigorously in progress. This is the metaphor of the parlor. And I think that it is a metaphor for life. When we're born, we're thrust into the midst of a conversation that has already begun long before we arrived on the scene. And if I may say so, all of us know that the time will eventually come when we will die. And so the question is, what will we contribute to the conversation while we're here? To me, the cool part about that question is that there is no one right answer. We have freedom to be playful and serious and contemplative and creative all at the same time. Furthermore, the fact that we will eventually leave the conversation doesn't take away from our ability to contribute to the conversation in the meantime. The lifelong series of birthday speeches must eventually come to an end. And so I have to ask myself, what will I say? what will I do? When all of us are old and we look back on the conversations that we've had, what will we have said and what will we have done? These are the things that determine who we are and who we will become. Now this reminds me of a story. I'm reminded of the story of the philosopher and the greenhouse. It seems that the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer was visiting a greenhouse one day, and he was lost in thought as he was contemplating a certain plant in his hands. Now there's a botany student in this greenhouse, and the botany student, seeing the philosopher's scholarly appearance, his studious manner, and his intense interest in the plant, thought that he must be a specialist. And so he approaches the philosopher breathlessly and asks, "Who are you?" The philosopher turns and looks at the young man for a moment before saying, "Why, young man, if you could only answer that question for me, I would be eternally grateful. Who am I?" That's really the question. It's the theme of this speech, and I think it's the latent theme of every speech, and it's really the only theme in literature, some would argue. That question, who are we, why are we here, and what will we do? Well, as for myself, I don't have an answer to those questions, but please stay tuned, because who knows, perhaps I will have an answer to offer you of some kind next year. In the meantime, I look forward to a journey with each of you, to reflecting with you throughout the coming year, and to living life with each of you. Thank you very much, and cheers.